What's up everyone and welcome back. I'm going to address the elephant in the room, and yes, I know I haven't done an intro in a while, I've been busy, but how was I really going to do one for this film? And that film is Twisters. So let's look at some footage.
Dodge whatever's in there, it's big and it's moving.
So Twisters is a 2024 film directed by Lee Isaac Chung. It's starring Daisy Edgar Jones, Glen Powell, and Anthony Ramos. And the film follows Kate Carter, played by Daisy Edgar Jones, who crosses paths with Tyler Owens, played by Glen Powell, as the two are on opposing teams taking on converging storm systems in Oklahoma. The film is a sequel to the 1996 original Twister, and shares quite a few similarities with that original film. The main thing, obviously, being is that we're going to follow storm chasers as they chase tornadoes. The first thing I want to start with this film is the Lee Isaac Chung of it all, because if anyone knows that name, they know that he kind of had his breakthrough and he wrote and directed the film Minari. It was a couple of years back, which was a very quiet indie film released by A24 about a Korean family having just moved to America and kind of trying to live the American dream. And as someone who keeps up with this stuff, it was really surprising and a little bit baffling that a director like this would then go and do this really big blockbuster straight after. The person who I thought would be the natural fit for this was Joseph Kosinski, the director of Top Gun Maverick, and he actually has a story credit on this film. But I digress. With the announcement of Chung, it did have my attention, and it did have a very good cast announced. Glen Powell, very hot at the moment. Daisy Edgar Jones has had a very big couple of years as well. And after the trailer came out, I kind of wondered, what is this film going to be? And I'm pleasantly surprised and pretty happy to report that it's just a good old-fashioned summer blockbuster. And I don't say that to belittle the film in any way, because Chung directs the absolute hell out of this film. The camera is almost always doing something interesting, it's on the move, it's kinetic, and frankly it's just really impressive the sense of scale we get in this film from a director who'd worked on something in comparison so small. And that leads me on to my next big praise for this film. It just looks incredible. We've been in a weird place in Hollywood where CGI heavy films haven't been really looking up to scratch, but that's absolutely not the case here. The storms in this film are kind of terrifying. They're obviously very windy. These are tornadoes, but there's hail, there's rain, there's debris everywhere, there's explosions at times. And there's actually a really well integrated use of some good practical effects over here, which makes the whole thing just that much more immersive. Another reason why I became quite interested to see what this film was going to be like in the build up to its release was the announcement of the soundtrack. Now, for people that know me, know that I love country music, and this soundtrack is absolutely stacked with current country stars. There's people like Luke Combs, Dylan Gossett, Wyatt Flores, who's an up-and-comer, there's Tyler Childers as well. The list kind of goes on, and the needle drops are actually placed pretty perfectly throughout the film. There's actually a moment when Glen Powell's character of Tyler Owens is introduced, and they drop the Luke Combs track, and it's just, it's actually perfect. And that will get me onto the characters. So Daisy Edgar Jones plays Kate Carter. When we first meet her, she's this young storm chaser, and she's got this theory where if she puts something up into this tornado, that it will actually cause the tornado to dissipate. Now, I say she puts a thing up into the tornado because I don't actually remember the name of what it was. It was some kind of absorbent thing. There's a lot of science in this film, but I'll get onto that later after the characters. So Kate Carter kind of has this ability where she's able to read a storm better than anyone else can. It's kind of like her whole thing throughout the film, which doesn't really need like the radar technology. She can almost feel it in a way, which makes her quite unique to this story. And Daisy Edgar Jones is pretty damn good. I thought the accent kind of fell off at very small moments because she is British and she's having to do an American accent, but overall, she's really good. Does well in the action set pieces, does well with the emotion, and most importantly, she bounces really well off her co-star, who is the coveted Glen Powell. Now, this is a guy who is doing all the right moves to get the level of stardom that, frankly, he deserves at this point, and he is perfectly cast in this role of Tyler Owens. He's known as the Tornado Wrangler. He's kind of this YouTube personality. He live streams all the tornadoes that he goes into, shoots fireworks into them and stuff like that. It's extremely American, but it's extremely entertaining, and Powell is just perfect in this film. Anthony Ramos has a little bit less to do, but he's still very, very good. His character kind of goes through a fairly contrived arc in the film, but I guess this is a summer blockbuster, so I'm not really expecting huge emotional leaps. So to come to the science of the film, and this is actually not really a problem with the film, but there is in the second act just a lot of science dumping. And what I mean is you just have these characters who apparently know the science, and they're just saying these big words over and over again and being like, oh yeah, okay, so in theory this works. And I don't understand any of it. I haven't looked up anything about how tornadoes work. It could all be legit, I have no idea. But there was quite a lot of it in the second act, which does set up the third act and the conclusion quite well, so I can forgive it a little bit over here. And it's in that kind of segment in the middle of the film where the film does kind of slow down a little bit. You get to see a little bit more of the character of Kate Carter and then a lot of that science stuff. And that was where I was kind of like, this was so breakneck and entertaining from the beginning. And then it has a little bit of a lull, but then it goes straight back to being breakneck and entertaining. So I could just turn around and say like, oh yeah, this is just a fun little summer film, but it's actually a lot more than that. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's extremely well directed. The cast are very good. The soundtrack slaps. But I think the best thing that this film does is it really respects its predecessor. And for the first time, I think, in a while in a legacy sequel, you don't have some big cameo character coming back, or you don't have some huge nod to the original film. There are some little nods to the original, and that's great. But you don't have these overly nostalgic moments that just kind of like make you want to just go like, oh yeah, I remember that thing from the first film, and make you think about the first film and how much you like that one. This stands on its own 2 feet. It takes the best things from the first film and kind of makes them better. It ups the stakes. It is a little bit melodramatic, but I mean, this is a blockbuster. And overall, I'm pretty surprised just by how much I enjoyed it. This is one I would recommend. Go see it in a theater. I saw it in an IMAX and it was huge and it was loud and it was amazing, frankly. And I think it's just one of those perfect films where grab a bunch of your friends, maybe even go for a couple of drinks before, and just sit down in a dark room and have a good time for 2 hours. That's what blockbusters have always been for, and when they're good, that's what they're best at. So yeah, cards on the table. When this film was announced, I expected to hate it, but I'm actually recommending it. As usual, if you have stayed with me for this long, thank you very much for watching. Please get involved in the comments. Tell me if you liked Twisters, if you want to see Twisters. Like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, all the YouTubey stuff. I will be on the Adlib podcast as usual on Monday night at 7:30 p.m. in the UK and 8:30 p.m. in Malta, and I will be talking more about Twisters over there. I believe Andrea's seeing it, so we'll actually have a discussion between multiple people. Next week, you can expect a review of Deadpool and Wolverine, because even though some people know how I feel about Marvel movies, I am gonna commit to doing this review stuff, so I guess I have to go watch it, but I'm gonna try to go in with as open mind as possible. But until then, in the words of Tyler Owens, if you feel it, chase it, and thank you for watching.